Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be checking out Ultimate Spider-Man issue 4 by Jonathan Hickman and David Messina. Hickman takes a break from the spider-themed action to explore the ultimate Peter and Harry's relationship, couching the entire issue in the first dinner that Peter, Harry, and their wives go out to get to know each other on. Hickman also uses this to introduce us to the ultimate Gwen Stacy, Harry's wife, and quick the issue falls into panel after panel of the couples becoming good friends and getting to know each other a little bit more. The entire issue was just Hickman flexing his superior take on Peter Parker, showing us that if the 616 Peter was allowed to get married and have kids and have friends outside of his costume, he would be very much a well-adjusted person, and he would be a very normal person, which is itself a core idea of who Spider-Man is. Spider-Man can be anyone and anyone can be Spider-Man, and getting to see Peter just doing everyday things that, everyone else in the world has ever done with his friends and family is just simple and brilliant. The couple's chats turn to MJ's business, as she has recently started her own PR firm and struck out on her own. Again, this is just a fantastic evolution of the character. Hickman keeps things like her modeling past intact and builds on it, taking Mary Jane into the next step that the main universe comics always seem are too scared to do, and they always try and give MJ something to do. She's a movie star, or a case in point, this whole jackpot thing where she's become her own superhero now in Amazing Spider-Man and a jackpot series, but it always just kind of peters out and ends up her being used as sort of this object of Peter's motivation or some sort of tool in a villain's plot or something. Giving her some proper agency and a proper voice in the book is so refreshing as well. It's something we never really see, or when writers try to do it, specifically in the main books, it always, again, just comes back around to her being a sort of damsel in distress at some point in the story and just kind of peters out again. MJ's job has led her to help Ben and Jonah with their newspaper venture, coming up for the name of their company and calling it The Paper. I actually really love this name. It's simple, it's to the point, and it fits with the ideals that Ben and Jonah are going for. Something that is, very obvious, something that when hearing it, you know what it is, you know what you're getting from it. It's very transparent, it's a very neat name. Ben and Jonah don't get a lot to do in this issue. They aren't in it for more than a couple of panels, since they are babysitting May and Richard, acting as, the laid-back uncles with each other. Ben actually also gets a really awesome moment in one panel with Richard, imparting some of his wisdom to the boy about giving people a reason to read. And it's a rather meta line, and it feels like Hickman's mantra for the book. Give people a reason to read this version of Spider-Man and to stick around. And so far, in my opinion, he's done a great job of adhering to that, since I am not going anywhere. The story has me hooked. The couple's dinner eventually turns to talk of the masked man Peter has been taking pictures of, and the couple try to determine what he stands for, with Gwen being the one to point out that his emergence means he's probably a hero, since the world is in need of a hero and they have provided one for it. I also like her reasoning for why The Paper should be the one to publish the photos and sort of deal with the story of this masked man, since they wouldn't sanitize the story or sterilize it like somewhere like the Bugle would to sort of run their own agenda. The Paper is very transparent and would actually tell the story how it is and probably give people some hope for a change. The back half of the book is actually focused on Gwen a little bit here, and like MJ early on in the book, she gets some time to shine and we learn a little bit more about her, as well as her being a sort of executive in the cutthroat world of businesses as well, like Harry is. We learn from her that she is working with Harry on his Green Goblin venture and knows that Peter may or may not be the masked man. It's heavily implied that she knows, but she's not giving it away. She's just doing these pretty heavy-handed hints that maybe he is this masked man that they all are talking about. So when Gwen and MJ go to the bathrooms to, freshen up their makeup, Gwen asks MJ if she would spearhead Oscorp's new PR takeover of the Stark Stain brand. I took this as a way for Harry and Gwen to kind of keep an eye on MJ and Peter and keep them close. And it also is probably related to the fact that in the last issue, we learned that the costume that Peter has been using is seemingly Oscorp technology, or in this case, since they're taking over Stark Stain, it was probably Stark Stain technology that they have acquired. So I could see them as using this as a way to sort of keep an eye on Peter, and if they actually did take this stuff and Peter has just been lying to them and this is them spying on Peter and MJ. It's a really cool way to take Gwen as a character. It's completely different from what we usually get with her character whenever she appears in the comics, and I quite like it. It puts her in the same playing field as people like Harry and Peter, and it's really cool. While Gwen and MJ are off, Harry and Peter talk about their little superhero venture, and we learn that, of course, Harry has told Gwen everything he knows and she's like working with him, and Peter hasn't because he believes in secret identity and shielding your loved ones from what might happen to you as a masked vigilante. And surprisingly, Harry doesn't buy that at all, and we're kind of tipped to Harry's hand a little bit as he thinks he should be using his powers to stop these bad guys, and instead of just stopping, you know, criminals like the Shocker and everything, he should be using his powers to save the entire world. Something which Peter finds is a little bit too big for him, and while he doesn't say it, you kind of get the feeling that he just kind of wants to remain the friendly neighborhood masked man. It's this part of the book that Hickman uses Harry's speech to finally drop the thing that has been kind of missing from this book from up until this point, which is the great responsibility talk, making Harry be the one to tell Peter that thanks to his great powers, he has a great responsibility to save the world. Harry delivering this speech is a really interesting twist, since obviously it's meant to be Uncle Ben just before he dies. It's interesting because of the context in which it's being said, since it's completely changed from the context of what it usually is. So I've always taken the great power, great responsibility chat to be Peter has to help the downtrodden, you know, stop bullies, help the little guy out, basically. But I really like how Hickman has reframed it and given it a greater scope, and in turn putting more weight on Peter as his role as a hero, making him sort of the centerpiece for this new Ultimate Universe again. And it makes sense that Harry would want Peter to do this, as he is, to our knowledge, the first guy Harry has met who has actual superpowers and isn't just some dude in, you know, an iron suit, or has, in Shocker's case, electric gauntlets. He hasn't using technology, he actually has superpowers, and he wants to see him as someone who can rival these guys playing God, you know, the Maker and all of his people who are playing God with the world. And there's a desperation to that, and I really think that's intriguing, since it could be used as a way to strain the relationship that Harry and Peter have, and it could be used as a way of Harry snapping and kind of going against Peter, and that thus turning them against hero and villain sort of thing. I think that would be really interesting to see if that's where it goes, where Peter just denies Harry this, and because he's so desperate to save the world, he turns on Peter and ends up thinking that he's similar to these other guys with the powers, and he won't use his power to help people like the Maker and all his people, so he tries to kill Peter or MJ. Again, it could go anywhere in this story, and I like that Hickman is providing all of these avenues for us to think about, like, oh, it could go here, and it's just really great story and really great character building with these very familiar characters, to keep finding new things to draw us back into these characters and new little facets of their characters that we've seen time and time again. It's no easy feat, but Hickman just makes it look effortless. Jonathan Hickman and his team continue to take the series to new heights every single issue, building out these very familiar characters in new and exciting ways, while also adhering to the core concepts and beliefs of Spider-Man and the type of hero he is. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10.